I love when coaches, consultants, and professional service providers want to do big things in their business. They want to rise to the top and influence their market and the world around them. They want to have a greater impact and make a more lucrative income. Well, if this is you, welcome to Expert in You Podcast, the show where I interview other experts and coaches, consultants, so that they can share their success strategies with you. We're going to talk about marketing and how to close more sales, how to get more premium clients, and how to really build your visibility in the market and scale your business like a boss. If this is you, welcome to the show. I want to ask you to subscribe and hit the notification bell right now so you don't miss one episode. Grab your coffee and buckle up because we are ready to give it all to you to help you become the expert and get paid as the expert. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Expert in You Podcast. I'm your host, Carden, and I'm so excited to have Kristin Zhivago with me today. She is the president of Zhivago Digital Marketing Partners. Did I say that right? Digital Marketing Partners?
It's Zhivago Partners.
Partners.
It's a digital marketing agency.
There we go. Okay, we're going to say that right. So, but she is doing a lot of things out there, and we were actually just chatting a little bit before we got on here, and we were talking a little bit about AI and how she's implementing that into her business. But before we dive into all of that, Kristin, why don't you just give a little bit of your backstory, a little bit of your history, and just let people know kind of how you got to where you are, because you have worked with some pretty heavy hitting companies like IBM, Dow Jones, Johnson & Johnson, Fortune 500 companies. So I would love to hear sort of your journey.
I was always selling something as a child, and like Girl Scout cookies and greeting cards and rocks. Yeah. I had a couple of jobs because I put myself through college. I was a singer, so I sang and stuff. But the first real entree into tech was selling machine shop tools for Pratt & Whitney distributor. I think I was the first woman in the country to do that. But I learned some hard lessons because they just gave me a catalog and I wore a mini skirt, and that was all you needed back then.
That worked.
And I couldn't sell. I mean, the old shop foreman would come out and say, well, tell me how your drill bit is better than the one I'm using now. And I didn't have an answer. Nobody trained me. I didn't know I was supposed to know. So after one of those sales calls, I decided that I would learn everything I could about tech and everything I could about selling. And I've been doing that ever since. I haven't stopped. It never changed. It continues to change. It never stops changing.
Right.
And of course, AI is just, exploding more than any other technology I've ever seen in the marketplace at this point.
Crazy. Yes.
And it's partly because you can build an app to perform a particular function rather quickly. And so this is becoming a universe of apps out in the cloud. And, they're combining that with the generative AI and the search capabilities, the cataloging, the summarizing, analyzing. So that's really taken off. And we're deeply immersed in that right now in our own agency. So anyway, I went from that to selling a number of things. And then I opened up a high-tech ad agency with my husband way back when, this is decades, the beginning of tech and obvious tech, let's put it that way. And we did that for about 12 years. We were very successful. We loved it. But the Mac came out. And my husband was our graphic designer, and I looked at him and said, you may as well retire because they're all going to do everything in-house. So I reinvented myself. I became a revenue coach. So my goal was to help them market successfully in-house with the tools they had. So I did that, marketing and sales department turnarounds for a number of decades. And yes, IBM, Dow Jones, and the other Johnson & Johnson, but other companies as well. And by 2017, actually it was 2014, I opened an agency with a partner and then split off from that and started Zhivago Partners in 2017. And basically we provide all the digital marketing services, everything you can think of. And obviously more and more AI now too.
Everything from SEO to email marketing, social websites, all of those things.
Google Ads and other ad venues. And what I've done is I have a core infrastructure team that runs the company along with me. And then there's a core campaign team that uses a number of different tools to create campaigns. And then there's a team outside of that, which is all of the creative individuals,
Right.
the writers, the graphic designers, developers, and so on. It's a very good structure. It allows me to scale quickly if I need it.
So
And
they're
we
not all
typically work,
employees, just to clarify,
it's
they're not all
all, we're
employees,
all contractor.
all contract, yes. And
Yeah.
FYI, more and more agencies and people are going to that model because it's so lucrative and it's just a lot more profitable.
Well, it's a lot less of the administrative work, which I don't
Yes,
enjoy. HR has
yes,
become a morass of regulations.
yes.
And the other thing is that I found with the freelancers, they are very good at what they do. They have some other clients they work for. They're independent business people, so they're smart about working with clients. And I just find them to be a very high grade of expert. It works really well. But then we've structured the company so we feel very cohesive to the client.
I love it. That's one of the things. So in talking about this type of a model, which is again really a great way to go, a couple questions I have for you. So I know that I think at some point you did sell a business, or did you say that you exited a business or sold a business?
No, I've never really,
Um,
I've just reinvented the business. I was,
Reinvented.
changed the
Okay.
company name or whatever. I did leave the business that I started with a partner in 2014. I was only there for 3 years.
Okay. So some things that people might ask is, okay, if you decide to exit, is your business going to be saleable? Do you see that if you don't actually kind of have the employees or own the people, what is your thought around that?
It's an interesting question. We did a research project. I had one of my team members call my current clients and, do what I always do for my customers. How do you feel about our products and services? And I interview them. I've written a whole book on interviewing your customers. And one of the things they said, what's your exit strategy? Because I'm not a spring chicken and, I'm still keeping up with tech and everything. I don't feel like I'm not a spring chicken, but,
That's
it's
a
a
good
good
thing.
question.
Yeah.
So I realized that I wasn't going to sell the business because I can't sell something that uses a revenue coach at the top. I mean, I've been doing marketing and sales turnarounds for years, and for hundreds of companies, hundreds of CEOs, and you just can't replace that kind of experience. So it would be the kind of thing where if I did decide to go to Tahiti or I keeled over or whatever, I've worked it out with everybody so they can just approach the clients directly. And if they want to work for them, some of them will, some of them won't. I think that's a way to just sort of fade out. And I'm very happy with that because I don't think we could duplicate what we have here.
Interesting. No, that's a different perspective and an interesting perspective. So, what are some of the things right now that people should understand, especially in 2024? I know we're going to dive a little bit into AI, and I would love to talk more about that. But what are some things that you're seeing out there in the market besides AI that are making things maybe more difficult, shaking things up a bit? They're more challenging. What are you seeing out there in the marketing landscape?
I think one of the problems for the size of company we work with, we typically work with companies that are, say, 2 million to 25, maybe up to 50, depending. And I actually got into the business, into the agency, the digital agency side of things, because one, I knew tech, of course, but two, I saw that these established businesses with good processes and people and product and a good solid customer base they were like deer in the headlights with digital marketing. And they had tried, our typical client comes to us because they tried something or several somethings. Like they tried social media, didn't work for me. Tried
Right.
SEO, didn't work for me. They don't realize they have to do a number of things
It's
together.
cohesive.
You
Yes.
have to do omni-channel marketing now.
Yes.
There's no way around it. The customers are all over the place. And one thing reinforces the other because they go around and hunt and see, like they'll check your social to see what you care about and things like that.
Right.
So there's that. I was really one of the first people to identify the buyer's journey and that being more important than the seller's journey or the seller's desires. Doesn't really matter what the seller wants if the seller isn't appealing to the customer's mindset when they set out to buy, which I define as their desires, their concerns, and their questions. They're not going to make a sale.
Right.
So just making sure that the people who are out there in the market now, the managers, they actually have to understand how the digital marketing channels work. They change all the time. You have to have specialists working on them that are living, even eating, sleeping, breathing this stuff
Right.
because it does change all the time. But we're very careful to make sure that our clients understand how this stuff really works. There's too many digital marketing experts, agencies, and freelancers who just like to keep the client in the dark. They want to be
And
the
they hold them
smartest guy in the room.
hostage.
And they
Yeah.
hold them hostage. They won't give them the native files unless they pay for them. They won't make it easy for them to access their own website back end and things like that after the client leaves. And we've had so many horror stories that just make my blood boil because they're
Well,
not being
Kristen, in
treated
the
well.
early days, I can share just website stories in my business in the early days when, digital marketing was coming onto the scene, websites were coming onto the scene, and I was a hostage with most of the web designers that I work with, or they would put it on some platform that you had to go find a specialist to work on that platform. So I didn't mean to interrupt you, but that's such a huge point and for something that people should be aware of.
Yeah, I agree. And it's sad. It needs to change. I've been trying to do everything I can. One of my most popular articles on my blog is Website 101. How are they really structured? What's in the back end? How do they work? How do the pieces relate to each other? What are the best platforms and that sort of thing? My whole thing is educating. I've actually, my whole life goal is to help other people realize their dreams. And I do that by helping business owners. If they're successful, then their employees are successful, their customers are successful. It's this nice, bubbles or ripples in a pond kind of thing that spreads
Yes.
out if you can make that business work. And also lately, I've been focusing a lot on what we need to do with our businesses to sort of not counteract the AI aspect of things and the robotics and all of that, because tech is definitely taken over. There's not a business now out there that isn't on the cloud, pretty much. So you have to understand this stuff. But it still comes down to people. I'm writing a new book, my spare time, called Love, Leverage, and Logistics: How You and Your Business Can Change the World. And it's about creating these bubbles of goodness where you're treating your employees and your partners and your customers with the kind of respect that they deserve and expect.
Oh, that's a lost art.
I know. And
You've been around for years. I've been around for years. I mean, we have seen what customer service, client service is like. It's atrocious. I don't even know how people stay in business, quite honestly. So
yeah,
I love that you're bringing that up.
I agree. When we were the high tech agency back in the day and we were helping introduce all the technologies we use today, email, voicemail, and so on, voicemail was the one I regretted the most because you really want a human being to answer the phone and say,
Yes.
how can
The
I help?
automated. I
Oh,
hate
you
it.
need
Mhm.
Bob, and Bob's in his office. I'll transfer you over. Wouldn't that be better than press 1 for this and 2 for that?
Yes. Yes.
It's
All
great.
automation has not been wonderful for
No.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And I think, those are very basic things. I get why companies do it, but oh gosh, it is so frustrating. And I think there's nothing that puts more friction between a customer or client and a business or an organization than that, the very first darn phone call with them. So,
Yeah, I agree. But it was so great for
mm,
for the company
sure.
that everybody adopted it, and it was like the glorified answering machine, but it took on a life of its own. And I do think it got in the way.
Yes. I was going to say, everybody adopted it. Did we have a choice?
No, that's
No,
right. It
we
was
did not
very
have a choice.
successful.
Right. We didn't have a choice at all.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I love everything you're talking about. Let's talk about AI though. And how do you see businesses using it now? And here's the thing, I just saw a post on LinkedIn earlier. A leadership development coach was talking about embracing AI and how to implement AI into your company and why there's so much resistance with employees. They're afraid of losing their jobs, quite honestly. They're
Oh,
they're
yeah.
very afraid of it. How do you see AI playing a role and not taking over people's jobs, and how to incorporate that into business? And then what are you doing in your business? I would love to hear.
Well, first of all, it is taking over people's businesses already. I mean, just looking at the digital marketing space, rather than go to a graphic designer and saying, I need a stock image for this particular blog or something, you can just go into one of the AI bots, the visual ones, and say, I just did one today. I need a robot in a data center for one of our tech clients. And, the stuff that comes back looks very sort of animation oriented, but it's actually more interesting than stock photos because we've all seen those people staring at their computers together and laughing in front of their computers, and it's just overdone. That's way overdone. So there's definitely some stuff happening there. There's definitely stuff happening on the writing side. As a writer who has trained writers all over the world, that's what I did for IBM, is I wrote their instructions for their marketing people. And I cringe when I think of a bot just generating stuff. They're getting better. I have a little personal test. I've been sailing for 50 years, and around the world. And I've asked Chat GPT 3 times now, how do you sail upwind? And if you followed their instructions, all 3 times I've separated them by months or whatever, you'd end up on the rock. There's one thing in there that if you did exactly what it says, you would end up on the rock. So I still think we need subject matter experts. I
Yes.
still think we're going to have that. But then that means that if you are in this area or even doing business, you have to be the subject matter expert.
Yes.
There's not much room right now for mediocre. I think AI is going to take over mediocre. And I'm not talking about, the big stuff they're doing with analyzing. AI can analyze reams of data faster than human beings. I think correlations between data is happening much more. And I think AI is very good at that. They can figure out the correlation between something in 15 minutes versus a human trying to do it with spreadsheets or whatever in 3 days or something. So that's definitely happening. And you should be looking for ways to use that in your business so you can get data from data. There's a big push right now towards hyper personalization, anticipating what a buyer wants, seeing what their behavior is, trying to adjust your results so they get what they need. Totally in favor of it. Amazon uses it, Google uses it, it's already in use. What I'm worried about is that I have been interviewing customers. I've interviewed literally thousands and thousands of customers for my client. And I ask them open-ended questions like, why did you buy this? How did you buy it? What else did you look at? What trends do you see in your market? If you were the CEO tomorrow, what would you focus on or fix? And you find out what's really going on in the mind of your buyer so that you can then appeal to them properly with nuances. Human nature is all about nuances and human desires. You can't just use blanket marketing stuff. This is going to make you
Right.
sexier and richer and all that. They have very specific issues that they want to know you understand, and then they'll buy from you. I don't see that in AI yet. I see them getting all excited, but it reminds me of the people who sit in a room and build a persona, and there's no
Yes.
windows. They've never talked to a customer. They're just making these people up.
Yes.
I'll share one little story with you. There was a gal, Derek Lampta, I think her name was. Anyway, she gave up and she went up and did a speech once for an internet conference that I was speaking at. And she said, okay, everybody close your eyes. I'm going to describe someone to you, and then I'll tell you to open your eyes. And she said she's a woman, she's on welfare, she's the government assistance, and she's got 2 kids. And everybody said, so think about that person. What is that person? Who is that person? And then she said, okay, open your eyes. And the person on the screen was Princess Di, not who anyone in the room was thinking about. Okay. So you can be developing these personas, but it has nothing to do with the real live person underneath. And honestly, I don't see that yet.
Yeah.
And our
And-
customers are real life people.
And to that point, I think, and this is what I've been saying too about AI. I use AI in my business, and most people are doing that to some degree, and everyone's freaking out. But I think you said it best. Look, you have to be a subject matter expert. For example, you have to know the right things to ask. And if you don't know what you don't know, you cannot ask at the right things and get the right answers. And the other thing is, it doesn't help with execution. You talked about the nuances, the details. When I work with clients, when you work with clients, it's the things that they would never even know to ask, or they don't even realize they need, or it's the little bitty things that make the difference in how well something gets executed. And that comes from human experience. That comes from somebody being able to look at everything cohesively and helping you make the right moves, the right decisions, all of those things. And I don't know how people, it's not that comprehensive yet. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, 100%. It may get there. I'd be perfectly happy if it did. But if they leave the real interaction, not just stalking people, what they're doing right now is they're stalking people and saying, oh, she just bought a red shirt. She must be interested in red shirts.
Right.
I mean, but why? And where was she going to wear it? And what if she got it and she didn't like it? Or what if it only could be that red and not, and maybe she bought it for her son? Or, there's just so many little nuances that are the reality of the human experience.
Those little details.
I don't think we're there yet. We might get there, but look at voicemail. It never got any better. Once
Still the same old junk. Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
it was good enough. Oh, please listen because our menu has changed. And I'm like, I'm calling you for the first time. I don't care. It just got ridiculous. So that's what I worry about, is that it will get good enough. And then, and
Yeah,
the other issue, of course, from a human perspective is if we're all in the cloud, I mean, actually we're in a machine world now.
we
You
are.
can't
Sure.
do
We have
any
been for a
work.
long time.
Yeah, my whole business is on the cloud.
Yeah.
If I don't have the password, if I don't have the two-factor authentication, I can't get my work done. I can't get into the app that'll help me do my work. And sometimes you get in those circles. Facebook is absolutely just legendary for using bots, and they act like they're real
Yes.
people. Let me get you an agent. And it's a
Right.
bot, and they're very black and white. I had a client, some Russian hackers took over her luxury yacht site and started selling Russian gummies with a woman in a babushka or whatever that.
Oh
Oh,
gosh.
and she couldn't convince them that she was the owner of the site.
Right.
She had to give it up. I mean,
Hmm.
it was crazy. It was days, months, weeks of just trying to get the bot to say,
Yes.
"Oh, okay, you've proven it to me now." And they're doing that now with identity verification. If you don't identify yourself in that 48-hour window, you're toast.
Yeah.
So it's getting a little bit out of bounds.
Little bit scary, right?
Hmm.
Yeah. No, it's interesting you're talking about this. I remember right before COVID, I got shut down on Facebook. Someone hacked my account and I never did get it back. I had to completely rebuild because of course we're in COVID and like you said, everything's bots and automation and you just couldn't get any real help. And I really hope our whole world doesn't go to that because it's not going to be good.
Yeah.
If it does, because it's
Yeah.
not all great. There are a lot of great things about some of the things we're
Oh
talking
yeah,
about, but it's
absolutely.
not all great. And humans are still and also just even the connection. Don't you just love to talk to people? I mean, I think that's why podcasts have exploded. We're all just hungry to talk to people and to have that social interaction and that interaction with people. And that's a lot of that's gone away, I think, with social media and with other things that have come onto the scene.
Yeah, I agree with you. And there's also no ramifications for your negative comment.
Oh,
People will say
100%.
things on social media now they would never say to your face,
100%.
and
Yes.
so that's actually developed an entire environment that we never even had before. It wasn't even in human
Yes.
condition. So that's been very interesting to see. Now, am I anti-tech? No. Have I immersed my whole life in tech? Yes. Okay. But I'm determined to help tech be good, not evil, but
Right.
good, and actually do good. And it's getting harder.
Yes. Oh gosh, that could be a whole nother episode, a whole nother podcast. Such good conversation though, Kristen. I love that you've shared about this and you've opened up kind of a can of worms here in a way that we really could dive into and go deeper. But I think, like you said, tech is good. Tech has been a life changer and a game changer for me in my business and for other people in their businesses. And I think that we have opportunities today we've never had before.
I
But
agree.
but it isn't all good. And I think sometimes people put so much stock in it, like the voicemail thing, like okay, I don't even have to talk to my clients anymore. Just push a button. And those things, if you can actually remove those things from your business, you can stand out. It's sometimes if you can go back to some of the basics that made businesses great to begin with, you can actually stand out and you
Well, you
can,
can even do it with the help of AI. And
yes,
this is the real challenge now. If you can be that unique business that provides that unique, wonderful experience, and underneath, below the duck that they're
below
paddling
the
away.
iceberg.
Yeah, that's, I think, the best
Hmm.
mixture of all of this is that you accentuate and you amplify your ability to satisfy your customers, but you do it with an infrastructure, which is why the book Love, Leverage, and Logistics, I'm going to spend a lot of time talking about logistics because I see most companies as a revenue coach. That's always been where they fall down. They have this saying that your branding is the promise that you make, your brand is the promise that you keep. And you
Yes.
keep it with your people, your processes, your principles, your passion, and policies. If you're not a jerk, your policies are fine, your passion's fine, your people are happy. Usually people are pretty good in companies, in my experience. But processes, man, oh man. And it's getting worse because top managers don't understand IT and they're getting bamboozled by IT people who say, oh, we can't do that. And
Right.
by the way, the answer to that is to get up on the whiteboard or the Zoom equivalent and say, okay, well, let's just diagram it. And then I'm going to ask you questions about where, and then they say, oh, yeah, okay, we could do that if we do this and this. So you really have to learn how to make technology work for you in a way that accentuates what you bring to the party with your
Right.
business.
And by the way, I just want to hit on a point that you made. You said the people at the top don't understand technology. Now, do you have to understand everything? No, but is it negotiable anymore to be ignorant about
No,
technology? Is it
absolutely
negotiable?
not.
It's not, right? It's
If
a
you find yourself
necessity.
resisting, you ought to retire.
That I 100% agree with
You
you. And
can't
I
do
see it.
business anymore without it.
You
You just can't.
cannot do business
No.
without it. You just can't, whether you like it or not. You have to learn, you have to embrace it. It's a new skill set. They're new
Yep.
skill sets that you are going to have to learn if you're going to be an entrepreneur, be in business, run a company. It doesn't make any difference. And by the way, I want to just hit on one more thing before we wrap it up here. I notice you're on this podcast with me. I'm interviewing you. How do you build your influence? How do you build? How does Kristin get seen and heard? What are the things that you're doing as a CEO and a president? I just want to bring this up. She is elevating herself to elevate her company. And that's something else CEOs need to be thinking about, is building that personal brand as well as the company. So Kristin, what are some of the things you do?
Well, I've been writing articles in marketing and tech magazines since 1984. And then I started a newsletter called Marketing Technology that was back in the day when people would pay $200 or $300 for a monthly newsletter. And I did that for a number of years. And then I started the blog side of things and writing guides and so on. I love podcasts because not only do I enjoy being the subject matter expert, but talking to other subject matter experts like yourself and just having this interesting conversation in order to help people. The real answer to the question is, how can you help? When I used to speak all over the world, my husband, and when I was off to do the next one, he would just look at me and always say, just help them. That's all. Just help them. And that's what this is all about. It's all about marketing and customer service and selling yourself as a subject matter expert. It's all about learning so you can teach and being free with your information and just learning and learning and learning and then turning around, making sense of it and then teaching it. And people will be gravitating towards that. They see that and they say, that's the person I want to do business with. It works.
Right. I love that. And one of the things too, I help people really elevate their brand, step into the spotlight, get seen, get heard, all of those things. And so often they're really afraid to do that. But you said it so clearly, just help. That's really what this is all about. It's not about you. If you're making it about you, you're thinking about it wrong. You're looking at it wrong.
Exactly.
Building influence in the market, building a brand is about just what you said. It's about sharing. It's about caring. It's about, I want to help people. I want to make a difference. And when you do that, business will come to you because you are still shining a light on your expertise. You are still letting people get to know you. And you are still influencing people and you're moving them down that buyer's journey. But you have to think about it with the other person as in the forefront and not yourself. And I think some people stop themselves because they're like, oh, I'm so afraid. Really? Are you afraid to tell people what you know? No, but I'm afraid to do it on a podcast or whatever. So I love that you talked about that because that's so important for people to get as they're, and again, if you want to stand out, if you want to be seen and heard and get clients and play a bigger game, you have to be doing this just like Kristin is running a company, and she's done a lot of things, but here she is. So it's been so great interviewing you. It's been fun. I love everything you're doing. And by the way, I love her tagline or her positioning statement, which is, we help you sell the way customers want to buy. And I think that really encompasses everything that you've talked about and who you are as a president and who you are, just even your heart and who you are as a business. So thank you for everything you're doing.
You're welcome. Thank you. I enjoyed it.
This has been fun. So, all right, everyone, thanks for being here. And make sure you like this podcast, share it with other people, subscribe to the show, because we want to get more reach. We want to get people like Kristin out there sharing her knowledge and her expertise. And look, we all don't know it all. And so that's what these things are for. They're to really get that value out and share with you things that you could be doing to really build a business that's going to be around for a long time, helping a lot of people and impacting a lot of people. So we will talk to you next week, and go rock your business. Have an amazing day. Bye-bye. If you've enjoyed this show, then I want to invite you to check out a free automated webinar where I show you how you can bring in ultra high fee clients for $25,000 to $125,000 or even more. I show you how you can do this maybe even in the next 7 to 60 days. So if you want to check out that free webinar, just go to expertinyouaccelerator.com and I'll see you on the inside. You have an amazing day, and until next time, God bless you. Go rock your business.